We, of course, start this hour in the Middle East, and Israel has identified the latest body returned from Gaza by Hamas and Islamic Jihad as Israeli-Argentinian hostage Lior Rudaeff. Rudaeff, who is 61 years old, was killed in the Nir Yitzhak kibbutz while protecting his community with 4 other residents on October the 7th of 2023 during the Hamas attack on Israel that, of course, triggered the Gaza war, and his body was taken to the Palestinian territory that very day. Hamas have now returned his body, and the IDF have informed the family of the deceased that he has been returned for burial. Okay, following on from that, we have news from the United States, where a federal judge has ruled that US President Donald Trump illegally ordered National Guard troops into Portland, Oregon. This is a major legal setback for his administration's use of the military in US cities. The ruling came on November the 7th by US District Judge Karen Immergut. She is the first judge to permanently block Trump's use of military forces to quell protests against immigration authorities. Immergut, who is a Trump appointee, rejected the administration's claim that protesters at an immigration detention facility were waging a rebellion that legally justified sending troops to Portland. Her ruling permanently blocks the use of military force to quell protests in Portland, replacing a previous temporary order. Oregon's Attorney General Dan Rayfield described this ruling as a huge victory, and the decision confirms that the president cannot send the Guard into Oregon without a legal basis for doing so. Meanwhile, Portland's Mayor Keith Wilson also applauded the decision, saying that it vindicates Portland's position while reaffirming the rule of law that protects our community. Okay, of course, we are covering the United States and Donald Trump's decision to put federal guard troops into US cities. Of course, now a legal official has now blocked Donald Trump's ability to impose any federal troops in the state of Oregon again. This is a huge loss for the Trump administration, who said that said protesters who were protesting immigration laws were quote-unquote staging a rebellion. This is now found to be legally inaccurate, and a Donald Trump appointee judge has blocked this order. And so from now on, the Trump administration in the state of Oregon will not be able to deploy troops again without any legal basis. A huge development coming out of the United States today. Hopefully we're going to be joined by a guest to discuss this. Of course, the Trump administration has been the Trump administration has been deploying troops to multiple Democratic-led cities, Portland, of course, being one of them. Now, Alison Mutler joins us. She's the former Associated Press Bureau Chief in Romania, and she joins us live from the Romanian capital of Bucharest to discuss this further. Alison, thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. A federal judge in Oregon has ruled that President Trump illegally ordered the National Guard to Portland, saying there was no rebellion, as the Trump administration called it, to justify doing so. How significant is this for the administration's domestic security strategy, which of course we have seen throughout the United States and mainly, of course, in Democratic-led cities?
Well, first of all, these riots, or these protests, let's call them protests, have been going on since 4th of June over federal order to illegal immigrants. Something that has made Donald Trump quite angry, and he has wanted to deploy federal agents, National Guard, to not just to Oregon, but also to California, where there have been protests, where there's a lot of immigrants, and they are democratic cities. It is a big blow to him, because the court has ruled there that he cannot deploy the National Guard. They can be there, but they can't be deployed because his definition of rebellion has not been legally met. It's not a rebellion, it's a protest. It's a mainly peaceful protest. Now, while it is a blow to the White House, Donald Trump himself, he does have cause for appeal. That said, the administration probably will appeal, but when they appeal, they will have to demonstrate quite clearly and in legal terms that this is a rebellion that seeks to overthrow the national authorities. And that probably will be quite difficult to prove once a court already has ruled, as it did yesterday, that the level of protest has not reached the level of a rebellion.
Yes, and Alison, we've already had a White House spokeswoman statement that has come out since this. She said, President Trump will not turn a blind eye to lawlessness plaguing American cities, and we expect to be vindicated by a higher court. What does this say about the Trump administration's lack of wanting to put this matter to rest?
Well, the Trump administration staked its reputation on deporting illegal immigrants, so it's hardly surprising his reaction and the administration's reaction. The administration is digging their heels in. They have a very important voter base called MAGA, Make America Great Again. They can't afford just to give up this fight, so they will continue it to the highest legal avenues. But in America, we still have the rule of law. We still have independent courts, even if they are appointed politically. So it will be a tough road for the administration, the White House, to get this, to rescind this, to get this decision reversed. But of course, they have every obligation to appeal it. If they didn't appeal it, if they didn't talk strongly, then their voters would say that it was a cop-out, that they'd gone back on their election promises. So I don't think we should be surprised about this, but it is definitely not a final defeat, but it is a defeat for the White House, for Donald Trump's administration.
Yes, thank you very much, Alison. Do stay with us. We have some updates coming out of Europe. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has said that the alliance's annual nuclear exercises earlier this month demonstrated a strong and credible nuclear deterrent against Russian threats. Further stressing NATO's capabilities, he has reassured member populations and also signalled Moscow that nuclear war with NATO cannot be won. Moreover, Rutte has warned that Russia will remain a destabilising force in Europe and the world for the foreseeable future, even after the ongoing war in Ukraine ends. Addressing NATO's security concerns, he has highlighted the need for advanced technology and firepower to confront enduring threats. These comments from Rutte comes as the NATO recently held its annual industry forum in Romania's capital city of Bucharest. The forum focused on strengthening partnership between the alliance and industrial partners to support future defence investments. During the event, Rutte also highlighted that NATO leaders agreed all member countries will aim to invest 5% of their national GDP in defence by 2035, calling the decision historic for the alliance. Alison Mutler joins us once again. The Secretary General stated that recent nuclear exercises show that the alliance has a quote-unquote strong deterrent of the destabilising force, as he calls it, that is Moscow. How does such statements influence the alliance's messaging amid Russian threats?
Well, Rutte's message, the NATO Secretary General message, is designed to give confidence, to bolster support for NATO, and also to bolster for ordinary civilians in the 32 member states, that NATO is a strong military deterrent and people should not take too much notice of, as he said in his interview, of Russia's nuclear rhetoric, because Vladimir Putin has been using this nuclear threat ever since the beginning of his invasion of Ukraine in 2022. He's regularly put this issue on the table, and the messaging has a psychological purpose, which is to unsettle people, to fear people to strike fear into people and to make people think this man is, Putin is a madman. We better stop this war as soon as possible. We better cave into demands. It's a very carefully constructed psychological warfare on the part of the Kremlin, which they're expert in. And Rutte is now coming back, telling NATO members, telling the people, the citizens of these countries, that NATO is fully prepared. NATO has all the deterrence needed. I think there's 3 NATO members which have a nuclear arsenal. They are Britain, France, and the United States. Russia does have the biggest nuclear arsenal, but Russia uses this arsenal as a threat. It wants to destabilize, it wants to strike fear into NATO members, and it wants them to think that we better make a peace deal with Vladimir Putin, otherwise he's going to, in popular language, nuke us.
Alison, thank you very much for bringing such brilliant subtext to those stories. Pleasure to have you on the programme. We now move on to our next story, and French President Emmanuel Macron has spoken about respecting sovereignty in the fight against drug trafficking, saying that this is an issue that should unite all nations and must be addressed through cooperation between sovereign states. The French president's remarks came at a joint press conference with the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, on Macron's state visit to Mexico. Macron also said that he discussed the situation in the Caribbean with his Mexican counterpart and that France is committed to the sovereignty of all states. Let's take a listen in to the French president and his statement.
Sur d'éventuelles frappes américaines, je ne ferai pas de politique fiction. Je dis simplement que la France est attachée à la souveraineté de tout État, que la lutte contre les narcotrafiquants est une cause qui nous lie tous. Nous avons eu l'occasion de l'évoquer avec Madame la Présidente. Et qu'elle se règle par la coopération entre des États souverains et le respect de la souveraineté.
We're now joined by Ambassador Suresh Goel. He is a former Indian diplomat and he joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Ambassador Goel, for joining us here on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to have you. President Macron has stressed the fight against drug trafficking must respect national sovereignty. What is he hinting at there?
It's very interesting that he should be saying this when on a visit to Mexico. Frankly, when you think of it, besides the usual political network, I don't even think that there is any deeper French interest in Latin America or in the Caribbean. And in the absence of any such interest or any such other motive, what I can really say is that, number one, he was playing to the gallery in Mexico, where there is a great concern about Trump, and we know Mexico particularly has a great degree of concern, and therefore, in a sense, it could be playing to the gallery. On second thing, I'm rather happy that President Macron mentioned this thing, because frankly, what USA has been doing is really one-sided and challenging the sovereignty of the other country. Every issue, even regarding the drugs trafficking or the drug movement, there are processes under the international law which need to be followed, rather than just sending your ship to attack any boat that you think is carrying the drugs. Whether it is or not is a different matter. And therefore, I think it's time that somebody questioned what the USA is doing. And number two, I do feel that it was basically an attempt to build up the relations with Mexico, given the kind of situation that we are facing in that area at the moment.
Would this not be a slight dig at Washington after, of course, their operations in the Caribbean? Of course, what do you think Donald Trump is going to think of this statement? Now he sees a huge European country in Europe, and of course one of his closest trading partners in Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum discussing this and saying that these drug trafficking operations that Donald Trump has been approving, particularly in the Caribbean, must respect national sovereignty.
Absolutely. The point really here is that we know that the relations between European Union and USA are very strong, and to subject them to this kind of uncertainties, the vicissitudes of attacks on the boats in the other area would have been rather surprising. It is surprising. France is not known to really intervene in issues like this unless its direct interests are involved. Therefore, I use the word surprising at the very go. Trump is obviously going to be very, very upset. He is going to react to this thing. But I do not know whether USA will take any substantive step in terms, his favorite weapon is tariffs. So what kind of tariff would he impose on France without hurting itself? So let us wait and see. But this is actually interesting that somebody like France, Macron, has questioned Trump's behavior.
Yes, Ambassador Goel, do stay with us as we have further updates. We now move on over to Asia and